franktalks.com.
Ladies, brace yourselves. It's time for another broadcast of the G L Henderson Radio Hour on the Artist First Radio Network. All past GL shows are listed at artistfirst.com, where you can pick them up. Here he is, the king of relationship drama. It's G L Henderson.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to your monthly fill of the G L Henderson Radio Hour. I really appreciate you guys tuning in. We're going to have a really, really great and interesting show tonight. It's going to be full of a lot of discussions, and of course about relationships. You know, the relationship drama aspect and all those things that you grow to love about it. And we're going to have fun tonight. I have a very special guest on. He's been on my show, previous few years ago. So we kind of getting him back on the show. I was looking to say, man, who can I get to help me with this topic? And I was going through my mail, and I was like, I'll call this guy right here. But before I bring him on, I just let you know that we're actually talking about sexless marriage tonight and the drama it brings. And, one might ask, can that even be possible? I mean, yeah, hell to the yes, that's possible. Sexless marriage. And then I guess you might ask, how does this even happen? I mean, to lie in a bed with your partner and not even be getting it in, not having sex with your partner, is that possible? And I mean, for starters, you could be sitting there living parallel lives. I don't know. You tell everything to everybody else, your friends, but you don't even talk to each other. You don't open up. You don't share things with that person. You're sharing it with everybody else. And do you treat each other with contempt, neglect? Do you have expectations of what marriages should be like other than what it actually is or what you hoped it to be? Some of you just not realistic, so let's just be realistic. If you're looking for that sweep off your feet sex like you had when you first got started, well, dream on, dream on. And adding a new partner certainly isn't the solution. But we're going to talk about that because you still have to have this, basically in the end, you're still going to have that same sexless marriage and relationship that you have right now. But we're going to touch on that later on in the show. That whole threesome thing. We're going to talk about that. So to help me out with this subject and some other situations that we're going to bring up in the show is my expert relationship and dating coach. Partner. He's going to come on and help me with this. So let me tell you a little bit about him. All right. He's an expert in relationship and dating coach. He has a private practice helping singles, couples, and also coaches for the matchmaking industry. He is also a certified trauma counselor and an author of 15 books and over 20 audio MP3 lecture sets. He has refined his skills and expertise over the last 15-plus years, developing and teaching his own original work based on his emotional needs analysis theory. He is active in social media, print, radio, and television, and is a regular contributor and guest on multiple media sources. So, listening audience, please help me welcome to the show, Mr. Frank Kermit.
How are you doing?
I'm good. Welcome to the show. And everything is good?
Everything is good. I'm really excited to be back, and I can't wait to hear some of the questions you have for me.
We're going to get in, and before we dig into, these subject matters, I want to first let you all know that Frank did something for the show, and I really, really, really want you guys to take advantage of it, and which is actually he has a coupon for the audience for you all, and it's Marriage 50, and that's marriage spelled common with the number 50, where you can get 50% off 2 audio programs, and they're 4 hours each. And the programs are Making Monogamy Work, and then Alternative Relationship Choices, the Non-Monogamy Guide. So, Frank, tell them where they can go to use these coupons at, and then we'll move from there.
Okay, well, first of all, we're starting off talking about sexless marriage and what you can do if you're in that situation and whether or not it's even a problem. Go to my website, franktalks, with an S.com, franktalks.com. Use that code, marriage50, and if you're in a monogamous marriage and you want to save your relationship, that program will help you. And if you're transitioning into something that's more open, maybe you want to go from being monogamous to monogamish. Maybe you want to look at inviting other people into your relationship on a sexual level or more. The Alternative Relationship Choices 4 audio tracks will be able to help you do that and not risk losing your primary relationship.
And speaking of that, we're going to have two different discussions going on tonight, Frank. So the first one is that I sent you a little bit of information about it, but I'm going to bring the audience up to speed on it. One of the situations we want to talk about tonight is I had a call from a friend of mine who is in a marriage, and I'll get a little more deeper now than what I sent you, is that she really does not like the touch of her husband. They've been married for quite a long period of time. I'm not really sure how many years, but they have two young kids who are probably young teenagers or, a boy and a girl. Very healthy family, but she doesn't like him touching her or having sex. They're just not, she's really just not feeling him from what she has told me. And I'm not sure why they got married, probably out of, everybody else around them feeling like they should get married. So I think that's the initial obstacle. And right now she first initially wanted to venture off into exploring a woman sexually as an experiment by herself. And then later on today she sent me a message saying that she is interested in turning it into a threesome and inviting her husband into the bedroom. So off of your website, I know that they can go on there later on for more information, and we're just going to pretty much touch the surface today. So hopefully you guys, if you're listening, that you take Frank up on his offer with the 50% off to go visit and get a little bit more deeper assistance and guidance on this decision before you jump into it. And Frank, let me ask you, what is your take on adding individuals into the sex life, especially when there's already issues there?
Okay, adding additional people into your sex life when you're in an established couple. If there are problems with the relationship, it's going to put a magnifying glass on the problems that are already there. So if you have a very strong relationship, both of you consenting and agreeing to exploring something could make the relationship stronger. But if your relationship is already on rocky ground, it could make the relationship worse. The answer is not always found on bringing new people into the situation. It's not across the board. We would have to do an analysis of the specific couple and find out what are some of the motivations there. Now, the first question I would have is she feeling like this because of something specifically related to her husband, or is she feeling like this in general? Because sometimes someone will be going through, let's say, a depression. Depression kills sexual drive. Sexual drive is one of the first things to go away, one of the last things to come back. And if she's not feeling sexual drive for anybody in general, which might explain why she now wants to experiment with something, and it sounds like she's never done this before, but I don't know, and I don't have the information as to whether or not she's always fantasized about this but never had the opportunity. Is this something she did experiment with when she was a teenager or a young adult or before she got married? but it's very possible that she might be going in a very, very tangent direction just because she's nearly not feeling anything at all, and maybe something so taboo, so different from what she's used to might be calling to her, but it's not necessarily something that she's really interested in. It could be a form of escapism. We don't know. The issue I would want, if I were counseling the couple directly, I would be suggesting that she see a therapist or a medical doctor and just be assessed for depression first. Because if this is an issue of depression, then it needs to be treated. And that might explain why she doesn't want to be touched by her husband. The fact is they do have 2 children together. Children are still young. You said they were probably around teens, in their teens?
Probably young teens.
Okay, young kids, young teens. For a lot of parents, it could be a raw deal because they're exhausted. There's so much going on. It's not the same world that our parents grew up in, that we might have grew up in. You have to be ever vigilant to keep your children safe at all times. It's a very exhausting period of time, and it's difficult to feel amorous when you're overly exhausted. So that would be the second thing I would want to look at. What is their day-to-day lifestyle? Are they just not making time for one another? Are they not making time for themselves, never mind for each other as a couple? So that could also be a factor. The other thing I want to say is, could there be another motivation where she is turned off by her husband's touch? And I'm going to give you just a couple of examples. Example number 1, her husband doesn't want to use condoms, and she's terrified of getting pregnant again. Some women may feel that, look, I don't want to risk it. I don't want to be on the pill because, there are consequences and risks to being on the pill. He may be saying, I don't want to use condoms. I don't like the way they feel. So she's left saying, look, I'm just not interested anymore because she doesn't want to go through that risk. Some women had very difficult experiences with labor, and they just don't want to put themselves even at the possibility of getting pregnant. So could that be one of the issues? The other issue is that, is the husband not doing something now that he did during courtship? Has she, and this is where my work on emotional needs comes in when I would do an analysis with the couple, has she turned into his mother? Where while she's taking care of the kids, she's now extending that, taking care of the husband to the point where she feels motherly towards her own husband. This can happen when a couple has been together for a long time, and in almost every respect, they do have a good marriage. They have a solid family structure. However, if she starts feeling like her husband's mother, a woman who feels mothering towards a man can't feel amorous towards him, not sexually. This is why, when a woman says, I like him but as a brother, I like him but as a friend,
right?
It's because there's something that guy is doing that's evoking and triggering her mothering instincts. That's why she may be really turned on by one guy and just feel and just categorize the other one as a friend, because the friend is triggering some kind of mothering instinct that turns her off, even though she thinks he's a great guy. So that would be another thing that I would do with this couple and say, is he doing things even though she's happy to take care of him, even though he doesn't see it as a problem? If she feels mothering towards him, it's simply going to turn off the attraction, and she's going to start building up a resentment. And resentment will kill even the best of marriages. So that's where I would start.
Well, Frank, I do know that she had mentioned she had a experience, with the woman, which oddly, it was with another relationship that she, again tried to do the whole bring in another person, and she, admitted to saying that it didn't go well for her because of her insecurities. So this is one of the things I was going to bring up when you're talking about bringing in a third person or another couple into the bedroom. The fantasy of it doesn't always translate into reality, because in your fantasy,
You're in control of everything. It's all in your mind. You're
perfect.
not threatened by anything. Okay? You're not threatened by anything, because in the fantasy, if something happens you don't like, you can change it up. In reality, you don't control other people. And I've talked about this extensively. You know, what's the common belief of what's every man's greatest fantasy is to be with two women at the same time. However, what happens when some men end up in that situation and they discover, I really don't like this. I don't like watching my girlfriend or wife enjoy herself with another woman. I'm feeling odd about this. Or it might be triggering something for him that he starts to feel guilt and shame because of the way he was brought up. Maybe he was brought up in a certain environment or a certain religion that frowns on these type of experiences. And now he's seeing it in his own life with somebody that he has a deep connection with, and something might get triggered. The fantasy of it is always going to be a lot better than the reality, unless you are really prepared for the reality of it. If you have realistic expectations going in, and you already have a solid enough foundation in the relationship you have, it could be a very positive experience. It could even turn into a lifestyle where this type of behavior becomes the norm, and you're willing to accept the risks that come with that lifestyle. So I'm not going to judge that. Okay, I've done both in terms of research. I have products for both sides. If you want to be monogamous, that's great. If you want to be non-monogamous, that's great. As long as you go in there knowing that there are behaviors, there are rules, and there are consequences. If you can handle the consequences and you're willing to commit to the necessary behaviors, you can make either one work. The question is, are you ready to put in the work?
And I guess at that point, I'm glad you brought that up, because one of the things that I'd love to mention is if you can sit down and lay out honestly what those consequences are for anything that you do, whether you could be out drinking and driving, if you are willing to deal with death, hitting somebody else, getting a ticket, losing your license, losing your job, if you're willing to accept those consequences, then by all means go for it. So I guess they would have to sit down and figure out what the possibilities of these consequences may be, right? And
you'd have to. Some of the consequences, of course, you're dealing with another person. You don't control that person's sexual history. You don't know what it is they're doing when they're not with you. You may be agreeing amongst, let's say, the three of you or the four of you, whether it's another couple or a single person. Oh, yes, when we're together, we won't practice safe sex, but we'll all practice safe sex with other people. But you don't know if people are going to follow their word or not. So you are putting yourself at some level of risk. You could be putting yourself at risk where one of you or your partner may become even more attached or more excited by somebody else. That is going to happen. And you have to know, are we mature enough that we won't let our infatuations with the new person interfere with the commitment we've already made? Are we mature enough to handle it and understand that, look, you may be with somebody brand new and it's thrilling and it's wonderful and it's the honeymoon phase, but that's all it is. And in 6 months, you're not going to feel that strongly about that new person, but you don't want to leave your long-term partner for the new person, and throw away the years you've had with your long-term partner. Are you mature enough to handle the waves of emotion that may come in? And although you can enjoy those emotions, you may not necessarily be in a position where you want to act on them.
And one of the things that she mentioned, that she sent me a question earlier, if I told her to send it to me if she couldn't get on air, was what steps can you take to be the exception to the rule, that being with you bring another person in, when your hubby says it's okay for you to have a woman, does he truly mean it? Because
yes, he may very well mean it. We'd have to find out from him what his expectations are.
Or is he doing it because I think that, me personally, is he doing it for you? Not for him, not for whatever, but is he doing this with the hopes of not losing him? Because I think that they're at that point in a relationship where these are like those last straws, for something to try to hold on to. Because one of the things that she said to me, and I overlooked it, but I guess it makes sense now at this point, is to say that she first talked to him about the woman by herself or whatever, and he's like, he was all for it. He's like, but I fear that I may lose you. So I'm not sure if he's 100% obligated to this or into it from a regular male standpoint. I think that, in my opinion, he's there for it simply to make her happy.
Okay, this is so huge. I'm going to try to break this down because I want to be respectful to both him and her in this situation. So the first thing I want to say, him being afraid to lose her is a separate issue from him being okay with her doing what she's doing. Okay? Because the fact is, let's say it wasn't about sex. Let's say she decided she wanted to go back to school, get some sort of accreditation so she could start a new career. And he could just be as threatened by that, saying, you're going to go and become a real estate agent, or you're going to go ahead and take on this new career and start a new life. Or are you going to be the same person, or are you still going to want to be with me? So him feeling threatened is a separate issue. And it's okay for somebody to feel threatened. It's okay for somebody to say, I don't want to lose my partner. The question is, can you feel that and still be supportive, which it looks like what he is trying to do. The other thing I want to say, and this is where we might get into some controversy, there are going to be times when even in a long-term secure marriage that you or your partner are going to want to do something that the other person is not thrilled with. But they're going to say, because I would want to be supported by my partner, even if you wouldn't feel comfortable with it, I'm going to support you. There are times when you or your partner need to work something out for themselves. And you have to decide where you draw your personal boundaries on this. Everyone draws the line differently. You have to know what you're okay with and what you're not okay with. Not based on what your friends say, not even based on what your own family says, but what you can and cannot live with. And as long as you figure out where you draw the line and you communicate that to your spouse, and your spouse can find a way to compromise to say, well, in their case, she wanted to experiment with a woman on her own. I know some men who would be really okay with that, and other men would say, listen, I'm okay with you experimenting with somebody else, but completely on your own, no, I would want to be in the same apartment. I don't have to be in the room, but I want to be in the same apartment to make sure that no third person joins in. Each person,
right,
again, draws the line differently. You just have to know where you want to draw that line. And as long as you're okay with it and your partner's okay with it, it's nobody's business. Find what works for you. One of the questions that I wanted to discuss with you was, is a sexless marriage okay? And the fact is, if the couple themselves are okay with it, then it's okay, and it's nobody's business. There are some couples that really just, maybe they've reached a point in their lives where they've gone through some kind of trauma, they've gone through some kind of crisis, and for a period of time, maybe they both feel asexual. Maybe one person has shut down for any reason, and the other partner says, well, I do miss my spouse, I miss the intimacy, but sex wasn't that important to me to be with somebody else right now, and I'm okay going without. Each person has to figure out for themselves what works. As a coach in this business, the only people who come to see me are people who have a problem with where they are now, and I try to figure out where to go. People who are already happy with their relationship, no matter what the structure, they don't need help. They're happy with it. They're fine.
Now, with that being said, what we're going to do is we're going to take a quick break. Give everybody your website again.
My website is Frank Talks with an S, franktalks.com.
All right, and when we come back, we're going to be cover some more things about this situation with the sexless marriage and the whole threesome thing, and may possibly get around to talking about another situation that came up, which is about infidelity that comes from the sexless marriage. So we'll probably talk about that as well when we come back, and maybe touch on some pros and cons of the threesome, just kind of hit some points there for you. And after the break, we'll be right back. And don't forget the 50% off, all right, Marriage 50, y'all, from Frank's site. So make sure you go there, and we'll be back after the break.
Need help with love, sex, dating, or relationship issues? Help from Frank Kermit, the best-selling author and Canada's most international relationship coach, is only a click away at franktalks.com.
From Loser to Seducer is the story of Frank B. Kermit. This book marks the triumph of a nice guy over most of his inner demons. This includes going from being a loser to managing 5 lovers at the same time, his first Valentine's date with 2 women at the same time, and getting back the one that got away. Want to learn how you can change your life? Buy this book at franktalks.com.
Need help with love, sex, dating, and relationships? Visit franktalks.com.
Back to your host, G L Henderson.
All right, earlier we was on the show with my guest Frank Kermit, and we were talking sexless marriage, and we were touching on subjects of the threesome. So if you missed the first segment of the show, you can always go back on the archive and check it out there. You know, it'll be up here shortly after the show is over with. Download it, go back, replay it. Hope it helps you out, and it'll be there for you. So. Also, I don't want you to forget that Frank on his site, franktalks.com, that you can go get a coupon, but you use the code MARRIAGE50, that's MARRIAGE50, where you get 50% off 2 audio programs, which these are programs that are 4 hours each. And one of the programs is Making Monogamy Work, and the other one is Alternative Relationship Choices, the Non-Monogamy Guide. All right, and that's at franktalks.com. So make sure you go there, and it's available for 7 days from this show right now. It's going to be up for 7 days. So if you listen to this a year from now, and you may, email franktalks.com and tell them if you can use this code a year from now. All right? So wherever you are around the world, 7 days from today's date, get that 50% off. So now we're going to pick back up with my guest, and we're going to talk about some closing segments, I guess, on threesome. And maybe we can talk a few minutes on the pros and cons of it, Frank.
All right, the pros and cons of having a threesome. Now let's be very specific about the context, okay? Because we're not talking about 2 people hook up off Tinder and then decide to invite a third person in and they hardly know each other. We're talking about a couple that is married, been together for a long time, they have children together, and they're thinking about going into the world of non-monogamy. Non-monogamy is the large umbrella that includes things like the swinger lifestyle. Some people call themselves hedonists. Some people will call themselves polyamorous. Everything from casual sexual relationships to full-on emotional relationships with other people. So if you are a married couple, been together a long time, monogamous for that period of time, you have kids, you're a family, and now you're venturing into non-monogamy. The pros and cons. One of the potential cons is that if one of the couple really is not on board with this threesome, it could be something that will haunt this marriage going forward. Because the next time there's a fight, the next time there's a major issue, the person who maybe is feeling forced into it can say, I did that for you, and I didn't really want to. So it's very easy to have that thrown in someone's face. Look at what I did for you. Don't ever say I never did anything for you. I let you have that threesome. I didn't really want to do it, but you don't know that until after the fact. Okay, you don't know that until after the fact, because up until that point, sure, I'll try it. Sure, I'll try it. Yeah, it's going to be great. And then afterwards it's, I didn't really want to do it. So not everybody is going to be honest about their willingness to get involved. So that's one of the cons. One of the pros, sometimes it can actually bring a couple together. Because someone says, wow, the person was really okay with me being with somebody else, and I felt good about it, and I had a good experience. I have to honor and respect somebody who gives me that kind of freedom and is willing to take that kind of chance. I don't know the source of it, but there's that line. It was from a great poem. If you love something, you set it free. If it comes back, it is yours. If it doesn't, it never was. The same idea here. If you really love somebody, you want to see them happy. The word that is used in the world of non-monogamy to express good, positive feelings when you see the person you care about enjoying and having pleasure with someone else, they use the word compersion. It's the opposite of jealousy. Okay? Jealousy is when you feel the sense that you feel threatened that you're about to lose something. Compersion is when you're happy for the person that they're experiencing something, even if you're not a part of it directly. Right. So it could bring a couple together. It could be the thing that says, wow, like my partner really was okay. I wanted to experience this. My partner supported me. And even though it wasn't 100% great for my partner was there. Something like that, going above and beyond, can sometimes bring that couple closer together, and they have a much warmer and richer intimacy. One of the cons, the person you choose may not be a very good candidate, whether it's someone who turns off one of your partners, maybe it's somebody who says, yeah, I'm just here for the threesome, I'm just here for the sex, and then they decide, well, you know what, I kind of liked it, I'd like to come back for more, but I connect more with you and not with you. So you could be inviting someone who could be toxic and maybe even becomes a threat to the relationship down the road where that person can maybe become attached. It doesn't always happen, but it's a possibility. One of the pros is that even if it's the one and only threesome the two of you ever have, it might allow for the couple to be more open-minded about other things to do together. Well, so-and-so did this for me, so I'm going to do this for my partner as well, which, by the way, is a very good recipe for keeping a relationship strong. It's not always about what you want. Sometimes you have to think about what your partner's wants and needs are and cater to them even when you don't feel like it. Okay, and again, that's not across the board. We have to take it, context by context. But if you're angry at your partner and every morning you bring your partner a cup of coffee, and the morning that you're angry and you don't bring your partner a cup of coffee, it's those little things that are going to break you up. But those couples who say, yeah, I'm still angry at my partner because of the fight we had last night, but I bring my partner a cup of coffee every morning, and I'm still going to bring my partner a cup of coffee every morning because I'm committed to the relationship even if I'm not thrilled with my partner right now. I'm committed to helping my partner, giving my partner what my partner needs and wants. Those are the types of couples that you can predict will not fall victim to the things that most people end up divorced from. So if you're going to do a threesome, again, look, one of the positives, if you choose a good candidate for having a threesome, that person could also become a very good friend to the couple. And it's not like you're going to be worried, oh, but what if that person, makes a pass at my partner? Well, you've already been there, done that, there's no more mystery there. And you may have someone that you can talk to about things. You may have someone that you can relate and maybe share other experiences or pick their brain about other experiences that the couple wants to have. One of the negatives, of course, if the couple ever does go through a trying time later on and there aren't established parameters and rules about how to stay in contact with the person you had a threesome with, let's say 2 or 3 years down the road, crisis happens, death of a parent, something's going on, loss of a job, and then one of the couples seeks out the person that they had a threesome with, leaving behind the other couple. Not even to leave the marriage, but just because that person says, well, I really want to seek out that person and get some support and get some comfort. And it could potentially turn into an affair because it's easier to be sexual with someone that you've been sexual with before.
Right.
One of the positives, through that one experience, you might meet other like-minded couples, so it doesn't necessarily become a threesome. It becomes this couple meets up with another couple, and it just increases your network if you're looking to explore this as more of a lifestyle instead of a one-time experiment. So the pros and cons can be applied across the board. It's not just about sex. Every time somebody within the couple or the couple together tries to do something so that they could grow together as a couple, experiment as a couple. If the couple takes dance classes together, they face somewhat of the same risks, except, of course, for the transmission of sexual diseases and possible surprise pregnancies. You're still dealing with the same type of jealousy, and you don't have to be having sex with someone in order for one of the person in the couple to feel threatened. Sometimes having an innocent conversation about the weather, if somebody is already insecure, they're insecure no matter what.
Right.
So, I mean, there's more, but I think we've covered enough at this point.
I think it's just, and there's pros and cons to everything. There's the yin and the yang, to everything in life. I, just would hope that they really seek, some assistance, from people like yourself. So, to really dig into it, because I've only given you a one-sided view of their situation. I don't really know what his views really on it or how he really feels or how this whole thing was presented to him. I don't even know those things. But if she's seeking this for her own personal selfish reasons or whatever, and he's kind of coming along, I really would hope that, if they don't have someone to talk to or reach out to, that they as a couple, reach out to you as you're making yourself available, for them, a nonpartisan individual who don't live in their community, who doesn't know their friends and family, someone who will be able to speak to them, non-objectively. And
that's the beauty of the work I do. I do Skype coaching when I'm dealing with a couple, and I work with couples all around the world. And because I'm so far removed from their lives, there's no chance that anybody is going to see them walking out of my office in their town. So this is done from home. It's Skype coaching, telephone coaching, whatever you want to do, we can make that happen. I do agree. I think that they should get some kind of guidance, and I don't think that the guide should be someone who would be potentially looking to have sex with one or both of them.
Yeah, and I caution anything, of course, along the line when you're indulging into something that could, potentially, add more conflict to a current situation. And when you're already at a low end of your marriage, and to add somebody else, I think you're treading on very, very thin ice.
Look, if they're already in that kind of trouble, then this may or may not be the thing that finally breaks them up, or it could be something that makes them feel closer together. It is possible that if she sees him being sexual with another woman, if she sees another woman having a sexual interest in her husband, that may rekindle some fires for her to be sexually attracted to her husband. This doesn't apply to everybody, but some people need that reminder that even though they may be a little bored with their partner can still be an attractive person to a complete stranger. And that reminds them and says, hey, wait a minute. That person's attracted to my partner, and they see their partner a little differently. Sometimes that type of thing is what it takes to rekindle, and that's another positive of doing this. So I just admire the couple for at least trying to make it work out, that they're trying to look at alternative ways to do it, because they got to have kids. And one of the risks of becoming a broken home, statistically 33% of children who come from broken homes, they're 33% more likely to be assaulted.
And why is that?
Well, you have two parents who both are sharing responsibilities, and between the two of them, there's enough time to give proper attention to the kids. Now, what happens when you split those two parents up? They're probably fighting with one another. The kids are getting shipped back and forth between the parents. There just isn't enough time to keep your eye out. And who is the number one culprit of attacking these children? It's usually the boyfriend or the girlfriend of one of the parents.
Mm.
So don't kid yourself out there. And this is what I tell every couple who is struggling. Don't think your life is going to be that much better off splitting up. Firstly, you're probably going to date somebody who's just like your current spouse, because there's a repeating behavior pattern there. You didn't end up together just because. There was something that drew you there. There was an emotional need that was originally addressed in you that chose your partner. It's unlikely you're going to date somebody or end up with somebody completely different. Not impossible, but more often than not, a person's second husband or wife is a lot more like their first. That's why people always say it was the other person's fault until their third divorce or third major breakup. That's when they come to me and say, yeah, it's me. I know it's me. So kudos to this couple that they're trying at least. You know, here's something that I think you might find interesting. When I do pre-marriage coaching, one of the toughest questions that people really react negatively towards, because they don't want to answer it. If you can't have this conversation, folks, if you're listening and you're thinking about getting married, if you can't have this particular conversation, don't get married. Here's the question. What would you do if your partner or you suddenly could no longer have sex? You got into an accident, went through some mental health issues, went through a crisis. If it was your partner who could no longer have sex, and you're in a monogamous marriage, what would you do realistically? What would you do? If it was you who couldn't have sex with your partner anymore, doesn't matter the reason, just boom, one day to the next you could no longer have sex, what would your realistic expectations be for your partner? Would you and your partner make arrangements? Would you allow your partner to go get some elsewhere? Would you still expect your partner to be monogamous, even though if this happens when you're relatively young, agreeing to a life without sex? It's a conversation that I've even had one or two people just get up and say, I'm not having this conversation, and walk out the proverbial office. So it's something to definitely consider. This is why I look at the couple you're talking about here. Yeah, maybe they're trying different extremes, but they're trying to make this work. There are ways for her to rekindle her attraction to her husband. There's behaviors that her husband can do. We just have to find out what brought them together to begin with and what was lost along the way. If we can do that, we can save this marriage.
And I'm glad that, that's a positive spin to it. And you're right, they're trying. They're attempting and they're trying. And I just, like I said, caution, just make sure that, you get some advice along the way, because this is one of those situations that can go quickly to the left or easily to the right just as fast. So just, go with whatever it is, you're trying to do. Like Frank said, at least you're trying, for the sake of everything involved, just kind of get some expert advice on it, because neither one of you are the expert. But I think that you both... Go ahead.
Sometimes the objective third party can just present it in a way that is easier for the couple to work with. And that's all I do as a coach. I guide. I make suggestions. I share my own personal stories like a big brother would. I'm not a therapist in the sense that I don't stand back and let people talk about their problems and sit there and nod like you would see in the show Sopranos. I'll actually offer an opinion. I'll help them, and I'll guide them. I'll say, well, this is what's available. And if they ever ask me, have you ever been in this situation? As a coach, I get to answer that and tell them personal stories, which you would be amazed how people really feel listened to when they actually find out private information like that.
Yeah, and I do hope that they get a hold of you, Frank. You know, and actually follow up with this. You know, you give some really solid advice that anybody could follow. You know, it's not just a marriage. You could be in a relationship, non-married, and going through this. You know, similar situation. You know, you could be in a man-man, woman-woman relationship going through this. You know, you could be in any situation, in any relationship going through this. So it's not just about a married couple in the traditional sense, but, you know, just a relationship, period. You know, should be able to, you know, reach out and get a hold of you at franktalks.com. I think that the information should be well received, and I think it was very neutral and down the middle about it. But like we said, there's always pros and cons to everything. So what I want to do is, before you leave, I want to make sure everybody knows franktalks.com. All right, and the coupon again is marriage50, and you can get 50% off the 2 audio programs, which are 4 hours each. And the programs are Making Monogamy Work, and the other one is Alternative Relationship Choices, the non-monogamy guide. So, Frank, what would you like to leave the listeners and you know, maybe this couple with?
With this particular couple, I'll say this. They always had the option to be unfaithful, okay? They've always had the option to be unfaithful. They didn't take it. They made that choice. And any couple, any relationship, there's always that choice. There's always that temptation to do something that they know they shouldn't do. But this couple did not give in to those temptations. This couple has tried to work it out, and the fact that they're willing to talk about it, they're willing to try this, they're willing to discuss this, this is what we need more of.
You are listening to the G L Henderson Radio Hour on Artist First World Radio. Back to your host, it's G L Henderson.
All right, we're back from another break, and we're going to go ahead and close out with our final thoughts from my guest, Frank. And, again, you can go to franktalks.com, check out his webpage, and all that information will be on there about the show that you heard today regarding, you know, the sexless marriage and, you know, the drama that comes with it. And but before we go, Frank, just go ahead and give everybody your final thoughts.
My final thoughts. This couple that we're discussing here, this is what we need to see more of. Couples who are willing to look at every option available to them to try and figure out different things to make it work, willing to think outside the box. The bottom line is they are committed to their commitment. They may be struggling to be with each other. They could have given in to temptation. They could have cheated on each other. They didn't. They're still trying to work out something. They're still trying to save their marriage, and that's what it takes. It takes an unwavering commitment to commitment where you are simply ready to do whatever it takes to save that relationship. If, let's say, worst case scenario, they don't last, they'll never look back on regrets wondering, maybe I should have tried something else. They are trying it. Rather than go elsewhere, they are really trying to save this marriage. Kudos to them. I wish more couples were like them, because if more couples were like them, there'd be a lot less people like me in business.
And maybe the divorce rate will go down, right?
There you go. This is what it takes. This is what it takes. It takes a lot of work. And some people just are not up for it. But I like this couple because they're up for it. They're trying. They're trying. They may not succeed, but the fact that they're willing to try, look, anybody trying to be a success will tell you, you can't quit. Even when it looks hopeless, you got to keep going forward and you got to keep moving ahead. You got to strive to be better than you were the day before. And those people who refuse to quit eventually get to where they want to go.
And you both have to be willing, participants in the growth of this success and give it your all, as you move into these directions as well. If both of you are committed, because it takes two to tango. So both of you, it's not that couple, but any couple, just like success doesn't come easy. You got to put forth the blood, sweat, and tears, and hope that something great comes out of it. And if you're at this point, where you are trying to explore, it's basically what you guys are doing, exploring, then that means, like Frank says, you have not, given up the fight, to try to build it and hopes that, it's not for a selfish reason of exploration hidden behind, this idea that you keep trying to keep your marriage, but you trying to hold on to, fulfilling some sort of fantasy. So again, get some third-party advice, like Frank said, and I recommend, giving him a try, give him a call, shoot him an email, and check him out at franktalks.com and pull up his products that he have. And start somewhere with a real expert, not, your neighborhood sideline lawyer or sideline psychiatrist or wannabe relationship, coach, whatever, but get some solid advice from a solid individual. And that's why I have Frank on the show, so that people can actually reach out to you and get some real solid advice. Because I remember the last time you were on my show, my listeners really enjoyed, hearing what you had to say.
Well, I'm glad that I was able to get a good reaction from your listeners the last time, and I hope that at the very least I've helped this couple, given them some hope and maybe some suggestions as to what they want to try to do next.
Yeah, I'm sure that, she was very adamant about this exploration. Just like I'm sure a lot of listeners are, if they're at this point trying to figure out what they want to do, with something of a sexless marriage, whether it's be a threesome or whether you're trying to head for a divorce or whether you're trying, to creep out of the back door, they're receiving something from this conversation. And I just hope that they reach out to you.
Listen, if she's hell-bent on having this exploration and experience, then maybe it's really important to her and she's not expressing how important it is. If she's doing it because she's just trying to push her husband away, well, if she's trying to push her husband away, it means that the relationship is on its way out. If she's doing it because this is her way of maybe trying to rekindle her own sexuality, maybe she's trying to find a place where she feels alive inside again, and this is, she's not able to do it with her husband, but rather than go to another man, she's going to another woman, hoping that maybe this will work and she can get back to a space where she was able to enjoy being with her husband. We don't know. What we do know is they haven't ended this relationship yet. They're still trying to save their marriage. And as long as they're willing to step up and make that claim, we're trying to save our marriage, we want to save our marriage, they will find people who can help them do that. And I hope that, in all honesty, that you're right, and I really hope that they can find, whatever it is that they're looking for. Any couple out there finding what you're looking for that's going to give you that, gratification and rekindling of what you need to, continue to move forward in your marriage and your relationship. Because like Frank said, when you have kids and kids are involved, it turns into a whole different ball game. It's not. It does. Yes, it does. Okay, just the fact that, never mind the statistics that I had mentioned earlier, just the fact that you are still going to have to co-parent for the rest of your children's lives. So for the rest of your lives, you still have to co-parent. You still have to deal with your ex if you go down the route of a divorce. That splits up every family holiday you can think of. One night here, the next day there. or this year you get here and then next year you get there. Kids remember that, okay? They remember the back and forth, and they hate it. They remember being put in the middle and being made to feel responsible for things that are beyond their control, and they resent it. And they usually look at the parents and say, you know what, Mom and Dad, you could have worked things out, but when you split up, neither of your lives were better. We want nothing to do with you. That is something I see when people contact me and it turns out that they've had a divorce in their past, and I ask them what's their relationship with their kids like now that the kids are adults. There isn't one. So think long and hard. To any couple listening here who's struggling, think long and hard before you walk out that door. Think long and hard before you put your kids through that, because when your kids are adults, they'll be in a position to abandon you for screwing up their lives because you were too preoccupied with your own. Be very careful, my friends. Don't end up that lonely old person that nobody can figure out. But they're such a nice person. Why won't their own kids come to see them? I'm telling you why. Somewhere along the way, parents stopped acting like parents.
And there you have it, y'all. Well, we're going to get ready to close the show out. I appreciate you for being on, with me, Frank. We went over a little time here, but that's okay. I appreciate artistfirst.com for having me on the show. And I'm sure at sometime in the near future, Frank, we're going to get you back on with another subject of some serious topic that could eventually help some people across the world here.
Call me. As long as you call me, I'll be here. You tell me you want me on the show, I'll be on the show.
I truly appreciate that. And my listeners, it takes a long time to gain, your friends and friendships and to develop trust with your partner, enough to feel comfortable about sharing with, them more than just beyond the friendship. Because if you go back and you think about when you were adolescent and you had that best friend, when that best friend became friends with someone else, that was often sometimes extremely difficult to deal with another friend coming into the mix. And often people, never learn how to be self-assured enough to have, numerous multiple friends and not be insecure. And it's the same situation with the whole threesome thing. Just be secure, be honest, be upfront about what you do before you start bringing people into your marriage. And if it's this whole sexless marriage thing, you have to find a way to jumpstart, rekindle, find whatever the root cause of that problem is and try to, work it out, figure it out. Just don't go running off to the left and to the right without trying to work it out with your partner, because it can cause much, much, much more damage than you really want to deal with. So work it out in the house, talk it out, get some third-party assistance, and see where it can go from there. So make sure you guys go check out franktalk.com. He was my guest tonight, and wonderful advice. And, again, he has a wonderful discount for you guys for 50% off, and that's marriage 50. And you can get 50% off 2 of his audio programs for the next 7 days, and that's Making Monogamy Work and Alternative Relationship Choices, the Non-Monogamy Guide. And, again, thank you, Artists First, my listeners from across the world. I really appreciate you, and I leave you with this, is that you'll know when a relationship is right for you, because when that person comes along, they'll compliment you, not complicate you. So we're out. Until next month, much love from G L.
Need help with love, sex, dating, and relationship issues? Help from Frank Kermit, the best-selling author and Canada's most international relationship coach, is only a click away at franktalks.com. Coaching is available in person, by phone, and by Skype for singles, couples, and alternative lifestyles. franktalks.com.
Frank Talks is sponsored in part by the Adult Male Virgin Seminars and Telephone Consultations. If you are an adult and want to get a handle on this once and for all, you need this seminar. Being an adult male virgin can be most stigmatizing in today's society. You feel like a failure in the eyes of the mass culture around you, alienated from your male friends who all talk about their sexual conquests, and you must hide this shameful secret lest they use it against you. And the very personal pain, anguish, and despair that cannot be described by words that haunts you every moment of your life. Enough is enough. It is time for male virgins to take charge of their sex lives. Frank gives you the rules of winning in this seminar, the Adult Male Virgin Seminars and Telephone Consultations. Make your first time the best time of her life. Only available at franktalks.com. Frank helps adult boys turn into men.
If you need help with your relationships, my buddy Frank, he's got some tips. Just go to franktalks.com. His advice is better than your mom's. He knows what you're going through, Frank has been there too. So log on to franktalks.com. franktalks.com.
What do you do when you feel like a fool? When your heart has been broken again? Pick up the phone or get onto Skype and talk on a private session. Yeah, get a little help from Frank Talks. Whoa, whoa, get by with a little help from Frank Talks. You gotta try a little help from Frank Talks. What do you do when your love goes away? Try coaching one-on-one. How do I sign up to turn things around? Just sign up at franktalks.com.